Hey guys, I'm jumping right into it. Just want to share this with you. Do you guys notice, for our returning viewers, do you guys notice a difference in terms of what's happened to our Rockscape? If you don't, I'm just going to break this down to you. For those of you guys that are new, I've been in the saltwater hobby now. This is my 13th week. And as we continue to run the tank, we're continuing to learn new lessons, okay? On top of that, our community members are continuously helping us out. Now, what I want you to learn from this, if you're new, when I set up this Rockscape, I didn't glue it down. And you can see here in the tank right now, I have a goby and a pistol shrimp pairing. And what ends up happening is the goby creates tunneling systems throughout. So you can kind of see one of his caves there. And what ends up happening is I hear these loud clicks. And the clicks are often when he's trying to pull shells in, or he's poking holes in through the rocks. As you see, sometimes they're covered in sand. So the pistol's been doing this sort of thing, but essentially what's happened is because he's been making the tunnel system, which is amazing and it's given a nice natural aesthetic look, it's ended up destabilizing the rock system. And that's what happened here. My son says, Dad, can you set up the rock again? So we had the rock elevated between these two rocks, and now he's collapsed. And, you know, for a little bit we thought, wait a second, maybe the pistol got crushed because we weren't seeing him, right? I mean, imagine the pistol's working on his tunnel system, and all of a sudden there's a rock collapse. So I had a fear of this happening initially. Thankfully, we've seen the pistol shrimp, so he's not toast. You know, he was able to get out of there. They're super quick. They're super careful. So I'm not sure, you know, biologically he senses danger and off he goes. But of course, as you see, I have this bigger rock supported between those two. And what's happened is, as you can imagine, when the sand is being shifted around, and you can see that it's been kicked around down here, the rockwork could potentially move. And one of the recommendations, I think, when you're setting up your tank, and again, I haven't done this, I have the puddy, and you know, you can go ahead and get different glues to affix your rockwork. That's something that you might want to consider if you have, let's say, a cube tank, or you don't have a lot of space in your tank, right? I mean, working with this Fluval, as I said, it's a great tank from a startup point of view. And, you know, initially, you know, I've been getting a lot of compliments from our viewers saying, hey, your rockwork looks great. Like, it looks awesome, right? And I have to agree, it does actually look really good. My 8-year-old son helped me set this guy up, and it was a great experience. But that was a concern, was that the rockwork would shift if the pistol was constantly digging underneath it. So again, this is just a lesson that I want to highlight for you guys, especially if you're considering getting a goby and a pistol pairing. And I mean, here's another lesson, guys. I mean, our zoas keep getting, you know, falling in, and I've actually had it happen where, you know, like, look, for example, here, this zoa has kind of almost perfectly situated itself into that rock, and I think he'll probably eventually start growing over top of it. But with this one here, I didn't epoxy it, I didn't glue it, and so, you know, at one point I had the pistol actually, you know, in a different part of the tank, it was over here, he pulled it into his cave, and I was sort of scared to put my fingers in. That's before I had any accessories to be able to reach these things. Now, the other thing about zoas, as we've mentioned, I've created another video that talks about polytoxins, right? And I didn't know this, and perhaps you guys can tell me if this zoa would be potentially toxic. But before, I was just grabbing them with my hands, which is not something that's recommended. You know, if for some reason the zoa is injured, they're bright, and things in nature, when they're bright, they can be toxic. So also they can release dangerous vapors. So we want to be careful when we're handling our zoas. We want to make sure that we're not poking them with anything, guys. And as I said, if you're interested in learning more, I did make a video on that, and I'll be posting that shortly. But that said, I think, you know, we're continuing to learn, and through experience, as we've mentioned here. And what I'm going to do, my son had asked me to fix up this rockwork, so I'm going to try to reposition it just as I had it before. We're going to move the zoa Again, using gloves and, you know, carefully keep it in the water. And I'm debating actually putting it on this rack. Like, what do you guys think? Should I put it on the rack so it doesn't keep getting knocked over? Or should I glue it down on a rock? I mean, the other thing too that, that we had been noticing is, where did all our hermit crabs go? I mean, we have one right here. One, two. We have a snail on the rockwork there. We have another snail here. So I'm counting 3, but at any rate, let me reset everything up and we'll come back with you. Okay, thanks so much. Hey guys, we're back. As you saw there, when I started the video, we had this rock over here. It had collapsed. Our pistol shrimp had, you know, progressively over time continued to dig and create his tunneling system. As you see, there's some of his cave network throughout, and essentially what had happened was it had collapsed the rock downwards. So we're back. I've placed the rocks again in between, so there's a cave there. The zoa is now placed on the top. I've moved that zoa up to that corner. So guys, you know, if I could teach you anything from the experience, you know, if I was to go back to when I first set this tank up and the Rockscape, I would have probably at this point recommend using putty or possibly gluing your rocks down, especially if you're going to consider getting a pistol and goby pairing. The pistol, it does, you know, as I said, continue to move sand around. It tends to do so mostly at night. And if you have shells, it'll often try to drag them in. You can kind of see one here that's buried. It's also going to, if you have coral and they're not glued down, and they end up on the surface, your pistol shrimp will try to pull them in. So again, guys, just something to bear in mind, because the sand is not, you know, it's movable, of course, right? And it's almost like a little bulldozer when it's actually out and about. As I said, the typical activity tends to be in the darkness, or I'm not sure, maybe it's when it's hungry, but I typically hear activity or clicking when the pistol's poking either through the rockwork, poking sand out, or trying to pull you know, various different objects in to block its cave systems. And so, as I said, I mean, it's a pretty cool pair, you know, between the goby and the pistol shrimp, but it's just something to consider if you want to avoid having to put your hands in the tank and reposition your rockwork. Again, really good idea to do so at the outset of your setup. Otherwise, you may have a tank, or I should say a structure collapse, like I did earlier on in the video where I presented what happened. Again, I can't say I'm surprised that it happened. It was, you know, one of our subscribers had said, you know, you can use super glue or use putty. And I have the epoxy and I considered it, but at the same time, I had already set up the structure. I also gave consideration to the fact of whether I would want to, you know, reposition the rockwork at some point. But since I'm only 15 weeks, you know, into the tank, it's not something that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to leave the rockwork as it is and allow the tank to continue to mature. My understanding is, again, if you're moving rockwork, it can move around bacteria. I'm just allowing these organisms and livestock to exist just as they would in nature, right? And that's kind of what I'm aiming for. And, you know, guys, again, if you're going to set up some rockwork, plan it out first, right? Place your rocks in before you add your water in. Make sure you like it and have it the way you want it to look like. And, you know, just go for it. I think, you know, this is part of the game. Part of the hobby is learning. And, you know, I want to thank all of our subscriber base, especially those of you guys that are contributing and, you know, just looking to help out newcomers like myself in the hobby. So I just want to say much appreciated, and thanks so much, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video, and it'll save some of our newer reefers from experiencing, you know, a rock structure collapse. Thanks so much, and have a great day.